My topic today is on the truth, and I think that what the truth is, it's a foundation for every aspect of your life, but specifically since we're all in business, then we want to have a level of trust that says, not only will I do business with you, but I'll come back and continue to do business with you in the future. So when you look at this graphic here, you see the Wall Street Bull, which by the way is not on Wall Street, and people mob this thing. It's hard to get a picture. I had to get up at 7 in the morning to go out there and take this photo with nobody around it. However, we know that Wall Street has varying levels of trust about it, and the same for us. We have to have integrity. And so if that integrity means we're delivering the same thing all the time, right? Without integrity, we just lose it. At our networking event that Danny and I have on Friday, we went around and we asked everybody one Friday, if you had a key phrase or a comment about you and your business, what would you say? And 90% of the people in that room said, I have integrity. That's the goal. Well, the truth shapes our beliefs and actions. It allows us to have determination and persistence, which is huge. This whole thing about persistence. Michelle kind of alluded to having a bad 24 hours here. And we know that without persistence, she could just say, I punt. I'm not going back there. I don't want to do that. Well, we have to be consistent, right? That means so we get up and we do it again after we get kicked in the shins. If you've ever played tackle football, you know you get cleated at the end of almost every play. It hurts. So, what we look at is a foundation of values. I like this particular verse out of Philippians. It says, whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, or praiseworthy. Think about these things. So what's going on in the noggin? Where are you using that 2¼ pounds of gray matter? That makes a huge difference. So I chose somebody, and I'm a history buff, so I like Teddy Roosevelt. Even though he didn't like Teddy, if you called him that, he'd scowl at you. So he had an element of truthfulness in his life built around the way he was raised. He was a wealthy New York City resident. His dad had money. He was a prominent person in the community. But he went to church every Sunday, and he had those values. He had a very, very strong commitment to truthfulness. Now, he did a couple of things previous to being in the United States Civil Service, but that job fit his personality because he was out across the country making sure that the way the government interacted with the people was according to the law. And when he found something, he vigorously prosecuted it. So somebody said, this guy's irrepressible, belligerent, and enthusiastic in the way he goes about his business. So Teddy was gone all the time. He loved the Washington, D.C. environment, but he needed to get back to New York because his wife and he were having children on a regular basis, and he was gone all the time. So he got an opportunity to be the New York City Police Commissioner, one of 4. So what happened was New York was corrupt. There was this thing called Tammany Hall, and the powers to be really ran the show. The other elected officials or appointed officials were just basically placekeepers. They didn't run it. But Teddy said, no, that's not the way it's going to be. He was out busting cops on the night shift for being on the take. He was trying to crack down on the rampant alcoholism and the massive amount of drinking that went on in the late 1800s. And he also was trying to crack down on prostitution, but he was having a difficult time with that because the guys would come back in. Every time he would try to enforce a law, they would just change it. So he would have continued in that job and said, no, we don't want you in that job. So then he got a really great job for him, Assistant Secretary of the Navy. He was also a historical writer, and he essentially became the Secretary of the Navy because the real secretary was quite ill and was more concerned with the pomp and circumstance than he was really running the Navy. Now, Theodore had always wanted to be involved in some kind of conflict or war, and so those type of people in the late 1800s were lobbying to start a war with Spain over the way they were treating people in Cuba and the Philippines. And so he got his wish. He became a colonel in the army, came down to San Antonio, put a troop together, and went over to Cuba. They only had 2 battles. Theodore was the one guy that was the big hero coming out of that second battle, the Battle of San Juan Hill, where he literally led the charge up there, dodged bullets, put himself at risk. The journalists at the time were there capturing all that. It was kind of the first phase of journalism in war. And he came out of that thing an American hero. So what was happening is the guys that were running New York needed a governor because the previous guy had gotten himself involved in some graft and conflict, and they knew they couldn't run him again. So they said, Theodore, if you'll keep your act together, we'll let you be governor of New York. He said, I promise. He couldn't do it. So he was out busting the chops of the New York power brokers and the people on Wall Street, trying to enforce laws, getting new laws enforced and things of that nature. And when it came time for a second election, he would have stayed as a New York governor, but they said, no, we don't want you. That's not good. So they said, how can we sideline this Theodore guy and not have him involved? Well, we knew the Vice President of the United States is kind of a worthless job. And if you look closely, you can see kind of the sadness on his face. He didn't really want that job, but they pushed him into it. Well, as fate would have it, a year later, he was President of the United States because McKinley was assassinated. He really jumped in as President of the United States and did a lot of neat things for the working people, for the food and drug, for national parks. He instituted with Columbia the digging and the opening of the Panama Canal. So if you go to Mount Rushmore, he is one of the 4 presidents that have been emblazoned on that mountain. So today. So once again, our theme from the talk is truth. And so we transition to a personal story about, and I'm sure it's happened to you, where you went all in with a company. I joined a company named Vallon back in 1978. We sold safety equipment. It resonated with me. I enjoyed it. It worked. There was enough technical with it, along with the mundane. I got to deal with people that I liked, and I really felt like I was serving working people. 85, I got an opportunity to move to Austin, Texas to help get in the clean room business because we felt that heavy manufacturing was going away in the United States. And so for about 10 years after that, things really went well. We had a lot of growth. I was all in, so to speak. And so the company colors were orange. And so the joke around the company is if you're all in with the company, did you bleed orange? I bled orange. I went to fire school. I got certified to teach negotiations. I got involved in Toastmasters. I worked 55-hour weeks. But something was going on behind the scenes. The owner had committed to all of us employees that he would never sell. But in fact, he got a new CEO in there, and they were, in essence, lying to all the old dedicated employees about what they were going to do. So what happened was after a time, after all this dedication, there's profound disappointment in what's going on in the company. Therefore, in 1996, late 96, after 18 and a half years with this company, I said, I gotta go. So there was disappointment. I felt like I'd been lied to. There were a lot of people displaced in their jobs that had placed their confidence in the company. But when you go through these stretches of difficult times, they prepare you for the future. And so, in fact, it really was. I landed the job with a division of Illinois T-Werx, which again met my needs. I got an opportunity to travel. I went back and got my master's degree, and then later on, after this Simcoe company, I founded my own company called Trucon Business Development. So even though you may be lied to at some time, think about it as a bridge to the future. Keep that attitude going, and that's what I would propose that you do. Madam Toastmaster.